Hello, this is Mr. Jewell. Welcome to another edition of Math Notes. Today we're going to look at angle relationships. This is section 1.2.1 for your notebook. There's a bunch of angle relationships that we're going to be concerned with in the sort of geometric or geometry part of integrated 1, 2, and 3. These are all things that you're going to need to know throughout the whole 3 years of courses. So it's really important that you sort of understand these terms and get used to seeing them. First thing we're going to talk about are complementary angles. Complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. So if we look down here at this figure and we have an angle 1 and an angle 2, angle 1 plus angle 2 adds up to 90 degrees. We know that because we have a right angle right here that is being split into two pieces, a smaller one by angle 1 and a slightly larger one, angle 2. Both of those are acute angles, meaning they're less than 90, and together they add up to 90, making them complementary angles. Along the same vein, we have supplementary angles. Supplementary angles are angles that add up to 180 degrees. So that's like these two angles down here. If we think about this angle being, say, 120 degrees and this angle being 60 degrees, 120 plus 60 would give us 180 degrees, would create what's called a linear pair, and would add up to 180 degrees would be a supplementary angle. So this is called, let me see if I can make this a little smaller. Linear pair. And that would be like, we'll call this angle 3 and angle 4, since we call the other ones 1 and 2. So angle 3 plus angle 4 are supplementary. They add up to 180 degrees, and they are a linear pair. One way to sort of keep these two straight is to remember that C comes before S in the alphabet, and 90 comes before 180. Okay, we also have three sets of angles that we commonly run into and use to solve problems. The first are called vertical angles. These are two angles that are across from each other whenever you create two straight lines. Whenever two straight lines intersect, you end up with a couple pairs of vertical angles. So if I draw a line like this and I draw a line like this, then my two red angles here and here would be vertical angles, and my two blue angles here and here would also be vertical angles. And they're congruent to each other. So the two red angles here are the same measure, and the two blue angles are the same measure. So whenever two lines cross, the opposite angles are congruent. Second one we have are corresponding angles. Corresponding angles, the way that I like to think about these are, if I were to take this set of four angles, let's see if I can do this here. I'm going to group these two together. And we're going to imagine that we take this group of angles and we slide it up this line L, which is called a transversal. And we're going to see which angles overlap with each other. The angles that overlap with each other are congruent and are called corresponding angles. So in this example, we have angle M, which is at the top right of the angle pair. We slide this up. That would overlap with D. So M and D are corresponding angles. C and H would also be corresponding angles. In fact, there's a whole bunch of corresponding angles here. C and H would be corresponding, F and K would be corresponding, and G and N would also be corresponding angles. Alright, the third one we're going to look at is called an alternate interior angle, or called alternate interior angles. When the transversal line L crosses two parallel lines, then the alternate interior angles are equal. Interior refers to the space between the two parallel lines, and alternate refers to the fact they're on opposite sides of this line L. What I tell students usually when they're first learning this and really throughout, is to look for the Z. So if we imagine that we have a Z shape that looks like this, then the two inside angles in that Z are going to be congruent. So that would be F and M. There's another pair that I can find. If I draw the Z shape like this, then G and H would then be the other pair of alternate interior angles. So I have two pairs of alternate interior angles here, G and H, and then F and M. Alright, that was a lot of information, guys. Make sure you paused it and wrote these down, and hopefully you'll be working with these and understand this a little bit more as time goes on. I do have some little set of problems here for you to do. I want you to name two pairs of vertical angles in that diagram above, two pairs of corresponding angles, and two pairs of alternate interior angles.